This tutorial looks at the audience analysis section of the analysis unit. It's all about trying to define who our audience, who our target market are. The more effort we put in here, the more benefit it will be down the line. Because if we don't know exactly who we're trying to target, it's very difficult to hit them specifically with the language that they use, in the way that they use it, the time that they use it, the place and location, and sometimes even the social media channels that they use. So it's very important for us to try to find out as much about our audience as possible, and trying to narrow down from the general audience right down to what are known as user profiles or personas. So it's very, very important for us to spend a little bit of time on this, because it will, it'll really benefit us in the long run. So we're still part of the analysis phase, and we're after dealing with aims and objectives, and we're moving on to the audience analysis. So as I said, it's all about trying to narrow our audience down from the general audience, which is just, everybody, okay, down to exactly who we're trying to target, and trying to understand who they are, what they're interested in, where they're located, all of these different things. If, for instance, we just go for the general audience, then we're creating a one-size-fits-all website, which is, really a thing of the past, and not as effective in any way, shape, or form as it could be. The more we know about our audience, the more we can narrow it down, and the more we can focus in on what needs to be focused in on. So we can look at what are known as different categories or key consumer types here. And some of the categories that we should take into consideration will be geographic, which is where they're located, the language that they speak, the climate that they're in, their culture, all of these kind of things. So the geographic location, okay? The demographic things, okay, such as somebody's age, their gender, their income, their education, social standing, etc. Really important. The more we know about this, the more we can actually create good, strong personas, and the more we can actually target our market properly and try to achieve what we're trying to do. Psychographic. Now, this is really what they're interested in. This is what their core values are, what their interests, their concerns, their lifestyle. Again, if we understand these, we know where and how to target our audience, or we'll learn more about these things. Behavioural. Now, this one sounds the most out there, I suppose, when it comes to any of these. But in fact, there's more information on behavioural data than there is on any other of the rest of them online. So we can actually figure out what they're using, what they're buying, where they're going, how long they're spending on different things. So we can actually figure out, what stage they are in the life cycle, and how willing they are, and at the time that we can approach them in order to get them to convert them to whatever it is we want them to do, okay? So as we see this funnel is getting narrower and narrower, and near the bottom of the funnel, we'll be looking at what are known as user personas or user profiles, okay? And normally you can create one or more of these for an actual web project. So in our case here, we're going to have a look at a few different ones, but some information about this. The more we know about this, then the more we use personas, the more likelihood of our website being effective, that we can target these people properly, we can convert them. Click-through rate, in other words, that they will click onto the pages that we want them to go to, and if we want them to buy from us, well, then they'll buy from us, or if we want them to sign up to something, well, then they'll do that, which is called a conversion rate. So quite often on tourism-based websites, the conversion rate is as low as 1.2%, can be in around 1.8. Okay, so it means for every 100 visitors that come to our site, 1.8 of them are doing what we want them to do. So the frightening side of that is 98.2% of them are not doing what we want them to do. So, the more we can eat into that 98%, the better our effectiveness as a marketer will be, and the better our effectiveness as a website will be, and so on. So if you just look at the funnel on the left hand side, normally when you look at this whole idea of the audience analysis section of your design specification, what you'll see is you'll see people starting off with general audience statistics. Okay, so things like, if you're talking about, the visitors to just say the Guinness Storehouse. Okay, what you'll start off by saying is the number of visitors to Ireland are growing, and you might get Fáilte Ireland statistics on that, and then you'll say the number of visitors to Dublin are growing, and then you'll see the length of time that they're staying in Dublin might be growing. Therefore, their availability within the capital is growing, and so on. And then you'll work towards the key consumer types that we talked about, the categories we looked about a couple of minutes ago, and maybe try to figure out exactly what groupings of people we're looking for, and then work towards your user persona or your profiles. So that's really where you'll be going with all of these. So you get narrower down through the audience analysis section, and at the end of it you will come up with things like these as user profiles. So these are just examples, and quite often you can see that we're looking at people of a certain age, of a certain gender maybe, and of a certain persuasion, etc., and things that they're interested in, and so on. So you can see different personas here, and it's very useful for us to use these, because then we can think about when we're creating the content and the copy on our actual website, we can create it based on these actual people or personas that we're putting together. Okay, and you can say, well, this is for Iggy, this is for Wendy, and so on. Okay, so you can put together as many of these as you want to, and you can target different parts of the website to do different things based on these. Okay, you might have different ones for different aims as well. Okay, but your audience is extremely important, that we understand what they want. At the end of the day, it's very easy for us to say, a good, effective website gives the audience what they want. But unless we know who they are, it's very difficult for us to figure out what it is they want. So it's all about learning about our audience all the way through this, and trying to learn about what we can do with them and how we can influence them. So anyway, we'll go on to Kilmainham Jail, and we'll look at their section on their audience analysis. The audience analysis, as it turns out, is probably the only section of the whole design specification that will use secondary research with regards to, I'm not trying to say you won't use them in other places, but you're absolutely required to use them here, because you have to build your audience based on general information, on the categories we talked about, right down to the personas and so on. So it's the one place where I'm saying, yeah, absolutely, we're going to see references throughout this. Okay. And this one was done, as I said, 8 or 9 years ago. So you're talking about 2011 or so. So you can see that at the time the references weren't old, but they look ancient now when you see 2008, 2009 on it. But what they started off is, like all of these things, the funnel, they started off broad and then start narrowing down. Who are our audience? Where did they come from? How long did they spend in Dublin? And again, they're looking at Kilmainham Jail. What was the total number of holiday makers? Were they from Ireland, or were they from abroad, and so on? Okay, so you can work it down there, and then total number of visitors to Kilmainham Jail. So they're getting narrower and narrower with this research that they're doing. Now, can I just step one step back there? Actually, the one thing that they don't do here, as you can see this, is they don't actually focus on the personas or the profiles at all, which is not great here. But the other 4 or 5 examples that are up on the website and up on Dropbox will actually focus on those. So it'll be interesting to have a look at those as well, and to see exactly how they go from the broad general audience right down through the, when you're talking about behavioural, right down through demographics and so on, right down into the personas and into the profiles. And that's really where you get the gold in this particular section, because then we start to understand who it is we're trying to target and what it is we're trying to do.